Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bookish Haven. I am your host, AK, and in this podcast, I will bring you my bookish opinions and intellectual discourse in a fun, interesting, and slightly unhinged way to not only help you pick out your next read, but maybe also to help you discover some new facts and ideas about the books you may already have read and love. Here in this haven, we will be discussing all types of books from romance to fantasy to sci fi to classics to thrillers, and I am so thrilled to have you on this journey with me. So, today is our first official podcast, and I am so excited. So, today's podcast, I'll be introducing myself, what we're doing here, and getting to sort of establish what's coming, what's in the journey for us. So, my name is AK. We're going to go by that. I am currently studying and doing my bachelor's in science and economy. If you are wondering where that major's going to take me, welcome to the club because I have no idea either. I am, just sort of going with the flow right now, as one says. Quite uncertain about everything, but just trying to sort of have fun, do what I love, which is books, do everything. I've got a little bookstagram happening. I started that this year. So that's essentially where my journey started. I began the year by launching my little quotes page called Live a Thousand Lives. It was essentially this idea of posting quotes from books that I've read that I love, and also those that, may not have read but belong to a certain genre. And through that, be able to share snippets from the book. So maybe someone might like those, read the book to connect with like minded book lovers. And I genuinely had no idea what sort of the community was like and how big it was and how amazing it was. So that's essentially where I started. And then slowly, made lots of new friends. I don't think I actually ever had made that many friends in real life. So it was really exciting. Yeah, and I met so many lovely people on there. And then in July, I decided to start, and because that page had a lot of my own personal touch to things, I decided not to just keep it like a generic quotes page anymore, but to actually change it up and to make it my own bookstagram. So you can find me on Instagram. The username is AK's Bookish Haven. One thing you might want to know about me is that I'm pretty bad with text. So this whole podcast is a great way, I think, for me to learn those skills and just to have a bit of fun and push myself out of my comfort zone, which is very comfortable, I would say, right now. I guess in terms of my reading, my favorite book is Harry Potter. Just always has been. It's one of those books that, even now being in my sort of early 20s, I would still, and I've read so much stuff since then, but I don't think anything can ever sort of topple it as such. So yeah, huge Potterhead. I love those books, and I cannot tell you the number of times I've sort of sought refuge in those books. It's been my safe space. So and I think that's one of the reasons as to why I fell in love with reading. It was books like those that gave me a second home to go to. I am currently I just finished very recently The Secret History, posted a review on my Instagram, but you can also find a more detailed review on Substack. I really enjoyed it. We will be discussing it in one of the upcoming episodes, so hold on tight. I won't talk too much about it right now. But it is coming up, and I'm quite excited and interested to see everyone's views and opinions on it because there's so much discourse online. And I think that is the reason this podcast sort of materialized, because I don't want to just sit here talk about my own ideas and opinions, but also to actually look at what people are saying, readers like me who are reading it, putting their opinions onto Goodreads or in their Instagrams. But I also wanted to have a look at what critics are saying and look at what like research papers are saying, because obviously those scholars, those critics have studied it a lot more, have a lot more technical knowledge. So I'm really interested in sort of putting it together and understanding the text and understanding the ideas about the text. So yeah, in terms of what I'm reading currently, I just started Emma. Emma has been one of those texts that I have put off for so long because I just, in my head, like, there's this little block. It's really weird, but I'm not a huge fan of Emma herself, if that makes sense. So I've sort of been putting it off, and I started reading it. I must say, I'll be so honest. I love Austen. I love with both Persuasion and Pride and Prejudice. It was a real page turner for me. Like, I could not stop reading. But then with Emma, I read like 10, 11 pages, and I am now struggling a bit to continue on with it. But rest assured, I am going to finish it. I am contemplating maybe putting it off, like leaving it for a while and then coming back to it this year, sometime this year before the end of the year, but I'm just not too sure right now. So that's where my reading sort of journey is right now. Yeah, like I said, this podcast is like, I'm no critic, right? I'm just your normal girl who loves to read. Growing up, books have been and yeah, still are like one of the only constants in life. And I know that that's probably really true for so many people where reading, maybe even writing, has allowed us to go through life. It's allowed us to face challenges and face hardships. And I personally loved school. I loved English specifically at school. And that's where I think this, whatever little analytical knowledge I have, that was thanks to English at school. So thank you to my English teacher, who was absolutely amazing. And yeah, like focusing on the text, focusing on like analyzing language, analyzing techniques. I feel like that's definitely made me a better reader. And while I wouldn't sort of, go ahead and analyze all the books I read right now, I definitely do like to annotate, or I have started to be more mindful about annotating the books where I think I could take away something from the writing itself, because I'm also working on something of my own. One of the best ways to learn to write is to read. That's one of the key motivations I have to actually annotate, but I don't do that for all the books that I read. Like if I'm reading a fun, light read, like a fantasy or romantasy kind of thing, I just read it for fun. Whereas with something a bit more technical, where I feel like I could probably take a bit more technical advice away from it, that's when I would annotate. So I guess I must say that this doesn't necessarily mean that, yeah, I annotate for every book. I love mixing up my TBR, which I think is one of the things that I think has helped me a lot as a reader. So I don't like, just try to read one genre. I love dabbling into both fiction and nonfiction. I've read a bit of nonfiction as well. I probably want to read more because I haven't read as much nonfiction as fiction, but I do want to sort of read more. But I love it. And, I really love a fun read. I love a serious read. I love reading in general. So the purpose of this podcast, I guess, just to sort of come back to it, is to share my bookish opinions, to yap about books, things that I love, things that annoyed me, but also to actually kind of put a mirror to those opinions and views and see how they hold up against some of the chatter out there and how they hold up against, some of what other people are saying, to discuss and to provide a breadth of opinions and views. I'm sure, and I know there are lots of other amazing podcasts out there. So it's a bit tough to kind of put myself out there. However, I would say that it's something that I really enjoy, and I hope that it's something that you would enjoy as well. So there it is, folks. This brings to an end our first official introductory episode. I feel surreal saying that it was the first episode, so I'm just excited to see where this goes. In the meanwhile, we will be back on this Thursday, the 14th of November, with our first official episode, and I will be talking about my first 5-star read of the year, which was Wuthering Heights. That book, in all of its gothic and romanticist beauty, absolutely drove me insane. There's a lot that I want to unpack, looking at what people are saying, looking at what critics have said about the book. So I'm really excited to go through that. And in the meanwhile, if you want to chat more about this, you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Substack at AK Bookish Haven. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So thank you so much.